Hello and welcome to another edition of the Umoja Circle. My name is Keith Smokey Johnson and I'd like to welcome you to the show. For those of you who are new to the show, the purpose of the Umoja Circle is to correct errors where errors are found and to introduce facts where we find that so many of us as black people are working on fiction. And another premise of the show is that I understand that in order for you to shift your consciousness, it's only through dialogue that can that shift happen. Okay, the world takes shapes in our mind, and the kind of knowledge that we're working on determines the kind of behavior that we express in this world. And if you're looking at the people of African descent in this world, if you're looking at the world at large, well, then you got to understand what ideas are this world working on. And that's kind of why we have these stacks of books. And you saw those images of young kids with their books. And with my guest, who I'm going to introduce right now, Baba Maat. He is a scholar. He is a documentarian. He is an author. He's a historian. And he is my Rafiki or friend. And I can't think of anybody I would like to have next to me talking about this topic, about why we must read. Him and I, comes from our own personal libraries. Just some of the books, but I want to give you an idea that when you see me do my show and talk the way I talk about certain things and topics about history and some of our great scholars, or you see somewhere Baba Andar around San Antonio or Houston or wherever he does his lectures, and he talks to people about the power of know thyself. We just don't come out of the air. We came out from all these years of knowledge. And that's what we're going to discuss, why we do the things we do and why we need to. And we're using this time of the year, this is being shown during Black History Month in February 2020, and we're going to discuss the purpose of this book. It ties into why Carter G. Woodson started this, why he wanted us to know who we are, know thyself. But this is part two of a two-part. This is the second show. And in the first show, we started off, and I think we should go back and start again talking about why we should start with our children. And you do a program that brings that point to the forefront. You want to go ahead and
Yes, sir. Of course, greetings, brother, and thanks again for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We've been doing this program, this will be the 5th year. It's Black History for Children book exhibit. And the purpose of the program is that we want to, of course, encourage literacy, that skill, very vital skill that we need to develop as in our young people and as a people, because we have to read, especially in this world. The other thing is that we wanted to connect the importance of reading to Black history, because it's not just we're going to read anything. We want to specifically identify and encourage our children in our community to read about the knowledge of themselves.
An accurate image, that's the important thing.
Yes, sir. So what we've been doing over the years is that, of course, and I'm just going to show a couple of books here. One of the books that to say that when the children come out to the reading program, what we do, we of course share information about how we can encourage our children to read. We provide an exhibit of books that are available for our children to read. And then we also donate or we give a book to a child that comes out to the program. So what we end up doing is that we purchase books as a community and we give the books to the children. And then we have listed in the book all those who contributed to that, so they'll know this is a community gift to you. Now on those books we have, like the first book we gave out, well, now 5 years ago, really was the book of Black Heroes, A to Z, just a synopsis of different people out of our history in an image. Then we gave out this book, Scientists, Healers, and Inventors, Black History, again, Black Scientists, Inventors. And we gave out this book one year, which was Political Leaders, Past and Present. And I think I mentioned earlier that even our former mayor, Ivy Taylor, is in this book. And this is the book we gave out last year, which was the book of Black Heroes, Great Women in the Struggle.
And that's an important thing that we need to understand. We take on these European male patriarchal type of ideas, cultural ideas of the domination women. In many black culture, it was, and many people still don't get that importance. There was a balance. You have to have the male energy, but it's nothing without the female energy.
Thank you. Yes.
You know, and a lot of the culture that we descend from, it was a patriarchal through the female line. Even the great civilization that everybody else wants to claim on, that we know is of African people, the great Kemetic or Egyptian empires who built the pyramids and the Sphinx and all that, they were matriarchal in a sense that it always through the mother.
Exactly, and that's an excellent point. And that's one of the reasons we chose this book, because many times our history is documented by, as we say, his story.
His story, yeah.
So we're saying that our story includes both that masculine and feminine.
It got to be a balance.
Yes. So the thing I think that's encouraging is that we have had a great list of black women have made major contributions just to the origin of us as a people, to the beginning and to the present.
Even today, when I see some of the issues that dealing with racism in America, who's in the forefront? Black women. Who went up that flagpole in South Carolina and pulled down that Confederate flag? It was a black woman.
Yes.
Who's the image of a sister standing in front of, I think it was in Ferguson, and when you had these military-type police dressed in, and it was a black woman standing right up front. So our sisters have always been with us.
And it's beautiful because you just gave the present. Now you look back in history through some of the books, you see a Queen Nzinga fighting the Portuguese in Angola. You know, you see you see a Harriet Tubman, or you see a Sojourner Truth, or you see these great warrior women and defenders of the people.
The goddess Ma'at, with the principle that teaches, and if you read many of the 46 revelations of Ma'at, you're going to find that they're kind of similar to the 10 Commandments, where they got that. But that's another story. But it's found in the book. But anyway, but again, her Tahuti, which many of our Masons and all of them will know, he was her partner. And every day he would say, not I have not, not thou shalt not. He said, I have not. And he would go through, every evening, go through this 46 things. And so the woman was always important to it.
Now, because you know, I know we're going to talk about the books, but that just sparked an idea because you're talking about the laws of Ma'at and talking about these ideas that says, I have not. And I always thought that was just so powerful because when you read them, of course, you have a version that says, thou shalt not, but in this recording, in the African version, you're looking at, and what actually in the Nile Valley contribution, as we talked about earlier with Anthony Browder, he has that lined up next to each other so you can see the parallel and the similarity in the book. So, and I think that's important because in the end of the day, we start off on this journey called life through the day, and we have to ask ourselves at the end of the day and be able to say, I have not done wrong. I have not told untrue. I have not, taken what did not belong to me. I have not, because ultimately that's the test.
There is a book here written by a great scholar who's still with us, thank goodness, Dr. Naeem Akbar. Again, I saw him here in San Antonio. And this book here is something that should be, again, well, a lot of these books are in our library. And we do read them, you and I, and we do talk about them, a concept. But he always talked about, in this book, in Know Thyself, he talked about there's the individual self, but in African tradition, there's also the collective self. That we don't just see ourselves as individuals, like rugged individuals, like you're taught in the Western way of dealing in communities, where we have black people who are taking on some of these behavior in which don't talk to my child's school teacher, don't talk to, what I do in my house that isolates them. No, I think it was Hillary Clinton stole one of, no, I should say stole. She admitted she got it. It takes a village to raise a child. And she got that from an African concept that talked about the collective self.
Yes.
We do not see ourselves only as individuals, but we are part of the collective community. That's why we had rites of passage. That's why a young girl or young boy were taught by the elders and what is necessary for that community. Yes. They shape the collective mind in there. I am not by myself. And when a child leaves the house in the personal self of the parents, when he goes out into the community, if he's destructive, then the collective mind will say, no, that's not, we will handle this. You will not just do, what kind of child are you putting out to the collective mind? That's a totally different way of thinking.
And that's so powerful because it's also saying that when you know yourself, you know each other. See, if I know what I want and need, I know you want and need the similar things. I would
share.
Yes. And therefore, if I am to be healthy, I know you must be healthy. That's why it's important as we read some of these books, we have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to share what I have learned. Now you share what you have learned. And we all collectively grow stronger and wiser
collective mind,
in the knowledge of self.
You cannot be, look, when I will use the body as an example, since we used to be medicals back in the day, you have a heart, you got your lungs, and you got the cells that make up the heart and lungs, all right?
Right.
Each cell is an individual. It does, any biologist will tell you that a cell does everything that the human body does. It gets rid of waste, it processes nourishment, it has an individual function. But in order for this body, this whole system, all those cells must be one. They must have for unity, it's common origin, a common objective, and a common direction, okay? The only type of cell that does its own thing is what we call cancer cell. And what does the cancer cell do? It destroys. You can't have, you got to work in the community because all the cells that make up the heart or the liver or the stomach or whatever part of the body, it is a collective mind along with the individual mind.
Because many times that cancer cell is a misinformed cell.
I like the way you put that word, yes.
So what we must do, and I'm saying now, we must be informed people so we can see our connection to ourselves and to each other.
That's the way, and that's what we want to show by what we've learned from this book as elders now, is that you cannot love that which is distorted in your mind. And we were not enslaved people. There's no such people as slaves. It drives me crazy now, and I'm still trying to carry my cool and calmly explain to young brothers and sisters, well, we were slaves. No. Show me a country. Was it Dr. Clark said that you got to have a map, and it got to be a country. You got to,
land-based.
Land-based to reflect your culture. If I call myself Chinese, I got to find China in there. If I call myself whatever, there has to be a land base. Where is Negro land? Where is N-word land? All these lands that we call ourselves based on the knowledge that was passed on to us.
And what you just said, because we had a discussion the other night, and Dr. Karinga talks about it in his introduction to Black Studies.
And if you don't know who Dr. Malawana Karinga is, if you celebrate Kwanzaa, he was the one who established it back in the 60s.
Established Kwanzaa, established what they called the Nguzo Saba, and I mean, just a tremendous scholar. But in the book, he talks about the importance of what you just said of not seeing ourselves and using the term slaves, but saying enslaved Africans.
That's what I use today.
Because, when you use the term slave, that denotes that maybe that's less than, less valuable, less significant.
And different.
Yes, and it doesn't connect you to a history or a culture that's prior to your enslavement, but by saying enslaved African, now we're connected.
Yeah, it's a condition.
We have a connection, a condition that's temporary, really.
In the history.
In the history.
Yeah.
But now we have a connection to the African history and the culture and the knowledge of ourselves as a people. So it's important that we use those kind of terms, and you can find those kind of ideas in books that some of our great scholars and writers have documented.
Another book that also parrots that one, another great scholar, John G. Jackson, okay, Introduction to African History. And what we are showing you, a book saying, if you want to, there are a lot of people who are homeschooling. But if you want to homeschool your children in an African-centered way to teach them there, you could do, we're not telling you not to use the system's way of doing, because you got to function within the system, but with the proper mind.
Yes,
also,
that's right.
these are books that you could use for homeschooling. 2 great books that could be used as textbooks to introduce our black youth to these great
some of these great ideas and great scholars. Now, and I want to point this one out, brother, because you know.
The philosophy of opinion, Marcus Garvey. Yeah.
And I say this, and I raise this up because I did not learn about Marcus Garvey until I was 24 years of age, brother. And that's when somebody asked me would I do a presentation on Marcus Garvey. Well, of course, you can't present if you don't know. So, needless to say, I had to go out and start doing some research, and I discovered Marcus Garvey in our history, brother. And I try to raise up Marcus Garvey everywhere I go now because of what he did for us as a people and sharing the idea, yes, of Pan-Africanism, connecting us in global unity, understanding that we are connected people.
That's the concept of Pan-Africanism that many of you might have heard or superficially, but it is a powerful concept. That, you know, you see Pan-Africanism or the lack of it in a lot of the conversation when it comes to people of African descent. Well, I'm from the Caribbean, or I'm from Puerto Rico, or I'm from Cuba. All of us black folks, you know, if you don't say a word and you're walking down the street.
That's right. You from Africa. You're African descent.
And that's the thing. We don't understand that that's just where the boats were dropping us off.
That's what
that we all have those same blood. You know, we are unique in a sense that, well, that's why we say African American. And I don't say it in the derogatory term. I look at it as a proud thing because regardless of what I might wear, I have the right to wear something Yoruba. I have the right to wear something Angolan. I have the right to wear something Fani. Why? Because I have their blood in me.
That's right.
They didn't see Fani or Yoruba or whatever coming off those ships. There's all black person, and those people were spread throughout our diaspora into those islands. Along the coast of the Atlantic seaboard, and we intermix our unique cultures.
That's right.
And we started a new language system, Ebonics. I want to do a show specifically in understanding that many of us don't understand that we speak at least 2 different languages. Standard English and what we were speaking for hundreds of years, but with no name until the 1970s, where we got this term called Ebonics. But if we don't understand that history, we look at it as derogatory language or bad English. No, we're speaking African, West African.
Because many times when we speak with a certain rhythm, a certain energy. We can take a word and give a slight different, you can give a different meaning to the same word. It's just how you say that word. Yes.
Yeah, phonetics.
So, but in a lot of this, and I know we're saying is that a lot of this is documented in the books, and people have gone in and researched and brought this information forward.
And that's a good point, brother. That's a good point because a lot of time in the 20th century with this computer age, it's a lot of information.
Yes.
But it's accurate information. And if you don't know what you're looking for, and you go on YouTube and you listen to somebody who may even look like Baba Mat Jan myself, and they're talking all this stuff, but if that's not documented, and you go into the world with that badly researched knowledge, you're not doing us a favor by claiming that's theory without, and as soon as you ask, well, show me the facts.
Yeah, because you know, we listen to some of our scholars presently today, and we gain information, but we also are encouraged to go in and research what they're saying, because ultimately what we want to do is confirm what they're saying with
what we know and
what we know, and therefore we can walk away saying, okay, I've heard it here, I've seen it here, I read it here. Now I can embrace it as, yes, this is the knowledge of us as a people.
There is a scholar that I learned that technique from, well, 2. This one, you can hold this one. This is our friend,
Dr. Runoko Rashidi.
But he also has another editor, will be Ivan Van Serter.
And can I say this, brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Runoko Rashidi, you know, we brought him here recently, last year.
He's a friend of mine, he's a friend of yours.
And of course, just a tremendous scholar. I mean,
That's what
and a worldwide traveler, and take groups of people to Africa, into the European,
and he's been doing
Europe,
it for years.
into the museum, documenting our story.
And he used to live here in San Antonio.
And he used to live here in San Antonio.
Yeah, we didn't know.
And just to say that he's also going to be in our next film, which is Walk on the River, the African presence.
Documentary.
Yes.
Okay.
Here, African presence here in San Antonio. So he's going to be one of our key people that we interviewed to document our story.
And we want to introduce you to these. Everybody that we're talking about has been around in the last 100 years. Okay, their books. This book is also, and that book, what was the name of that one? That was the African President, Early Asia. That's one of the great specialties of Dr. Runoko Rashidi. He does all everywhere, but that's one of his, because you don't understand when you look at some of these images from Cambodia or
India,
or all through the Far East.
He went to Japan, he went into China.
Yeah, so. and he documented that that a lot of the origins of some of those people, which goes with some of the earlier anthropological studies that Africans thousands, maybe millions of years ago traveled all through this planet. And a lot of these original cultures came out of Africa. And this is another book that many people, especially here in San Antonio or in South Texas, you might see this image up here, one of the Olmec heads. But it is shown that these heads go back to the Olmec civilization, that mysterious civilization that the Incas and all these other who came later utilized their architecture, but they were shown that in Mexico and Central America, these skulls were
because
around.
Those heads, I mean, you're talking about those are Ethiopian braids.
Oh, right there, that picture,
Yes, in this picture. So you're talking about these heads that's found in in Mexico. And then
in the museum now.
You think about it, you have pyramids in Mexico, you have pyramids in Africa. You find these heads that have the Ethiopian braids, have very much pronounced African features.
Now, 900 BC, folks.
Yes, this before Columbus.
Before Columbus, that's what his first book in 1976 that's read. He said that these Olmecs talk about it, and they were buried in the area where it was royalty, and they found these skulls and these. And he documents it, again, 11 different disciplines. Just like we mentioned in the previous show with Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Every time I study him, I know that I better do my research, because he's telling you, well, he's passed now, but he's always told us that he always gets a little excited, his voice rises. This man is how powerful he was. You know, heard about the Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel? Well, he's asked by the Swedes to pick people for Nobel Peace Prize in Literature. That's how he's utilized. He is known by many different countries to ask for anthropological expertise. So this brother was not somebody that he was a world-renowned scientist, and he proved by 11 different disciplines that African people were here in the Americas before Columbus.
No doubt.
And if you want to know more about it, well, it's in this book.
Yes. But and I saw, you know, and I know you brought your book.
Go ahead.
The Powernomics.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Of course, Dr. Claude Anderson.
That's the most important thing. That's another one of those books.
And I bring that up because this book right here is by Jawanska Jufu, talking about Black economics. And of course, I encourage all of us to read and get more knowledge about how we can empower our community through economic development. But these are two great resources for us to better understand what we had once in the past, what has happened to us, and now what can we do to become better business people, develop a stronger foundation as an economic community. And
he explained in that book, the Powernomics, if you read it, he explained why, you hear the discussion even today on some of the social media, of why Black people are not owning this, or why, he tells you, he leads, why. You cannot free a people in 1865 and just say, after 246 years of control, no economics, free labor, establish this country's economics power, or the foundation for the Industrial Revolution was on the backs of people that look like me.
Yes.
And then you let them go with no income, with no means of supporting themselves. Just you're free to roam the land. Then you establish black codes to put us back into the prison system, and then turn around and point at us by the turn of the 1900s and say, look at those folks. You know, and that is why Carter G. Woodson said, no, we are more than that. Let's start Black History Month.
That's right.
That there is a reason why we're acting the way we acted.
Yes.
You know, and if you don't understand that dynamics, and we got a few minutes, but there's one book I want to show you. Go ahead, brother.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's one of the most important things for us to change the way we're thinking. So this is important that we read these books because it gives us a chance to understand how we can become that engine, develop that economic change in our community.
And there's one other book that I want you to understand, and this one is called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. If you want to understand why we need reparations and all those things, because a lot of the behavior that you find out are just remnants of a slave mentality to survive insidious slave system. You can't function and survive something without thinking a certain way.
That's right.
And again, we've run out of time, but we will be doing more of this. So until next time, brothers, thank you, Baba. And,
thank you, my brother.
Peace, Hotep, bye-bye.